Hi, welcome back. We're in 1 Samuel, chapters 28. And I think we're going to go ahead and read all the way through to 31 so that we can finish with 1 Samuel and move on to 2 Samuel. Before we start, I wanted to open up in prayer, and it'll just be a quick general one. So please join me. Father God, I'm humbled to be in your presence and your word, to have you spend any time with us, Lord. It is a blessing, and I thank you. I'm humbled. I pray that it is your voice, it is your message that is received tonight. I pray that our hearts and minds are in a place where we are able to receive. May we give you all of our concerns, everything that is bothering us, stressing us out, anything we might be dealing with family, health-wise, finances, relationships, salvation. Yes, Lord. May we be able to bring it to you. May we bring it to you and leave it right there at your feet, knowing that all is possible with you. And I give you thanks. Ask that you're in this word. And I pray for the listener that they are blessed tonight. Give you all the praise and glory, Lord. Amen. I changed it. I was going to pray about Ukraine and the war with Russia and us helping, and then Bernie Sanders, how he wants everybody to sit down and talk. There's so many things we could pray about, but why not for our hearts and minds to be settled so that we could spend some time with God. And we're almost done. I'm sorry it's taking us a while to get through this one, but let's go ahead and start in 28. I'm reading this again because I feel like it left us hanging, it just in 27, David is staying in the land with the Philistines, him and his two wives, and it's like it says he went through the land and he continued to conquer land. It says, where have you made a raid today? So he raided like enemy territories, like Canaanite territories, and he would take them out, and he did that three different territories. And we left off with he was given I guess kind of scolded when it says so Achish believed David, saying, he has made his people Israel utterly abhor him. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I wanted to see. So let's go ahead and jump into 28. Now it happened in those days that the Philistines gathered their armies together for war to fight with Israel. And Achish said to David, you assuredly know that you will go out with me to battle, you and your men. So David said to Achish, surely you know what your servant can do. And Achish said to David, therefore I will make you one of my chief guardians forever. Saul consults a medium. Now Samuel had died, and all Israel had lamented for him and buried him in Ramah, in his own city, and Saul had put the mediums and the spiritists out of the land. Then the Philistines gathered together and came and encamped at Shunem. So Saul gathered all Israel together, and they encamped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the army of the Philistines, he was afraid, and his heart trembled greatly. And when Saul inquired of the Lord did not answer him, either by dreams or by Urim or by the prophets. Then Saul said to his servants, find me a woman who is a medium, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servants said to him, in fact, there is a woman who is a medium at Endor. So Saul disguised himself and put on other clothes, and he went, and two men with him, and they came to the woman by night. And he said, please conduct a seance for me, and bring up for me the one I shall name to you. Then the woman said to him, look, you know what Saul has done, how he has cut off the mediums and the spiritists from the land. Why then do you lay a snare for my life to cause me to die? And Saul swore to her by the Lord, saying, as the Lord lives, no punishment shall come upon you for this thing. Then the woman said, whom shall I bring up for you? And he said, bring up Samuel for me. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out with a loud voice. And the woman spoke to Saul, saying, why have you deceived me? For you are Saul. And the king said to her, do not be afraid. What did you see? And the woman said to Saul, I saw a spirit ascending out of the earth. So he said to her, what is his form? And she said, an old man is coming up, and he is covered with a mantle. And Saul perceived that it was Samuel. And he stooped with his face to the ground and bowed down. Now Samuel said to Saul, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? And Saul answered, I am deeply distressed, for the Philistines make war against me. And God has departed from me, and does not answer me anymore, neither by prophets nor by dreams. Therefore I have called you, that you may reveal to me what I should do. We just read, and I just wanted to point out, Saul knew he was doing a bad thing. In fact, the medium said that King Saul had said that they were not allowed to use spiritists and mediums and bring to talk to the dead. And he tried to trick her, and she found out it was Saul calling for Samuel. So he already is doing all kinds of wrong, but it's because he doesn't hear the voice of the Lord, and he wants advice. Then Samuel, verse 16. Then Samuel said, so why do you ask me, seeing the Lord has departed from you and has become your enemy? And the Lord has done for himself as he spoke by me. For the Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hand and given it to your neighbor David. Because you did not obey the voice of the Lord, nor execute his fierce wrath upon Amalek. Therefore the Lord has done this thing to you this day. Moreover, the Lord will also deliver Israel with you into the hand of the Philistines. And tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. The Lord will also deliver the army of Israel into the hand of the Philistines. So he brings up, back when we read earlier in the chapter, that Saul and Samuel had parted ways because Saul had lost the favor of the Lord because he wasn't obedient, and he didn't take Amalek out. And so he reminds him of that. And then he says that now he will join him in death, and that Israel will lose to the Philistines, and basically the Philistines will conquer them, and it's gonna pass that way, that he's gonna die, and that Israel is gonna be delivered into the hand of the Philistines. So let's continue. 20. Immediately Saul fell full length on the ground and was dreadfully afraid because of the words of Samuel, and there was no strength in him, for he had eaten no food all day or all night. And the woman came to Saul and saw that he was severely troubled, and said to him, look, your maidservant has obeyed your voice, and I have put my life in my hands and heeded the words which you spoke to me. Now therefore please heed also the voice of your maidservant, and let me set a piece of bread before you, and eat, that you may have strength when you go on your way. But he refused, and he said, I will not eat. So his servants together with the woman urged him, and he heeded their voice. Then he arose from the ground and sat on the bed. Now the woman had a fatted calf in the house, and she hastened to kill it, and took flour and kneaded it, and baked unleavened bread from it. So she brought it before Saul and his servants, and they ate. Then they rose and went away that night. The Philistines reject David. Chapter 29. Then the Philistines gathered together all their armies at Aphek, and the Israelites encamped by a fountain which is in Jezreel. And the lords of the Philistines passed in review by hundreds and by thousands. But David and his men passed in review at the rear with Achish. Then the princess of the Philistines said, what are these Hebrews doing here? And Achish said to the princess of the Philistines, is this not David, the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me these days or these years? And to this day I have found no fault in him, since he defected to me. But the princess of the Philistines were angry with him. So the princess of the Philistines said to him, make this fellow return, that he may go back to the place which you have appointed for him, and do not let him go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become our adversary. For with what could he reconcile himself to his master, if not with the heads of these men? Is this not David, of whom they sang to one another in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. So it didn't matter that David had lived amongst them and had fought with them, alongside them, for a short period of more than a year, not quite two. They're saying he could turn on them. And so he's saying there it says, make this fellow return, that he may go back to the place which you have appointed for him, and do not let him go down with us in battle, lest in the battle he become our adversary, so he could turn and be their enemy. So verse 6, then Achish called David and said to him, surely as the Lord lives, you have been upright, and you're going out and you're coming in with me in this army is good in my sight. For to this day I have not found evil in you, since the day of your coming to me. Nevertheless, the Lords do not favor you. Therefore return and go in peace, that you may not displease the lords of the Philistines. Because he's Hebrew, he should be fighting with Israelites. But remember, he left Saul. Okay, he had moved with his 2 wives and his 600 men, and it was to get away from Saul. So David said to Achish, but what have I done? And to this day, what have you found in your servant, as long as I have been with you, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king? Then Achish answered and said to David, I know that you are as good in my sight as an angel of God. Nevertheless, the princes of the Philistines have said, he shall not go up with us to the battle. Now therefore rise early in the morning with your master's servants who have come with you, and as soon as you are up early in the morning and have light, depart. So David and his men rose early to depart in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines. And the Philistines went up to Jezreel. David's conflict with the Amalekites. Chapter 30. Now it happened when David and his men came to Ziklag on the 3rd day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south of Ziklag and attacked Ziklag and burned it with fire, and had taken captive the women and those who were there from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but carried them away and went their way. So David and his men came to the city, and there it was, burned with fire, and their wives, their sons, and their daughters had been taken captive. Then David and the people who were with him lifted up their voices and wept, until they had no more power to weep. And David's 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, had been taken captive. Now David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the soul of all the people was grieved, every man for his sons and his daughters. But David strengthened himself to the Lord his God. Then David said to Abiathar, the priest, the Ahimelech's son, please bring the ephod here to me. And Abiathar brought the ephod to David. So David inquired of the Lord, saying, shall I pursue this troop? Shall I overtake them? And he answered him, pursue, for you shall surely overtake them, and without fail recover all. So David went, he and his 600 men who were with him, and came to the brook Bezor, where those stayed who were left behind. But David pursued, he and 400 men, for 200 stayed behind, who were so weary, and they could not cross the brook Bezor. Then they found an Egyptian in the field and brought him to David. And they gave him bread, and he ate, and they let him drink water. And they gave him a piece of cake of figs and 2 clusters of raisins. So when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had eaten no bread. So sorry, that's my bird, our bird. So when he had eaten, his strength came back to him, for he had eaten no bread nor drunk water for 3 days and 3 nights. Then David said to him, to whom do you belong, and where are you from? And he said, I am a young man from Egypt, servant of an Amalekite, and my master left me behind, because 3 days ago I fell sick. We made an invasion of the southern area of the Cherethites in the territory which belongs to Judah, and of the southern area of Caleb, and we burned Ziklag with fire. Remember, that's where they took his David's 2 wives hostage, all the children and the wives they had taken them. And David said to him, can you take me down to this troop? So he said, swear to me by God that you will neither kill me nor deliver me into the hands of my master, and I will take you down to the troop. This is the Egyptian telling him that. And when he had brought him down, there they were spread out over all the land, eating and drinking and dancing, because of all the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Judah. Then David attacked them from twilight until the evening of the next day. Not a man of them escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. So David recovered all that the Amalekites had carried away, and David rescued his 2 wives. And nothing of theirs was lacking, either small or great, sons or daughters, spoil or anything which they had taken from them. David recovered all. Then David took all the flocks and the herds they had driven before those other livestock, and said, "This is David's spoil." Now David came to the 200 men who had been so weary that they could not follow David, whom they had made to stay at the brook Bezor. So they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near the people, he greeted them. Then all those wicked and worthless men of those who went with David answered and said, "Because they did not go with us, we will not give them any of the spoil and that we have recovered, except for every man's wife and children, that they may lead them away and depart." But David said, "My brethren, you shall not do so with what the Lord has given us, who has preserved us and delivered into our hand the troop that came against us. For who will heed you in this matter? But as his part is, who goes down to the battle, so shall his part be who stays by the supplies. They shall share alike." So they don't want to, but even the 200 men that were left behind will share in all the spoil, all their plunder. So it was from the day forward he made it a statute he made it a statute and an ordinance for Israel to this day. Now when David came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the elders of Judah, to his friends, saying, "Here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of the Lord." To those who were in Bethel, those who were in Ramoth of the south, those who were in Jatir, those who were in Aror, those who were in Sephmoth, those who were in Estemoa, those who were in Rachel or Racal, those who were in the cities of the Jerahmeelites, those who were in the cities of the Kenites, those who were in Hormah, those who were in Torashan, those who were in Athak, those who were in Hebron, and all the places where David himself and his men were accustomed to rove. Chapter 31. I know I pronounce a lot of things wrong. I wish in the comments you guys could correct me just by doing a recording of your voice over whatever it is I say wrong, and that way I could hear it pronounced correctly. So anyways, chapter 31, the last chapter to 1 Samuel. The tragic end of Saul and his sons. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. Then the Philistines followed hard after Saul and his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, Saul's sons. The battle became fierce against Saul. The archers hit him, and he was severely wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised men come and thrust me through and abuse me." So he wants to die and just thrust the sword through him so that the other men don't. But his armor-bearer would not, for he was greatly afraid. Therefore Saul took a sword, and he fell on it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died with him. So Saul, his 3 sons, his armor-bearer, and all his men died together that same day. And when the men of Israel who were on the other side of the valley, and those who were on the other side of the Jordan, saw that the men of Israel had fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, they forsook the cities and fled, and the Philistines came and dwelt in them. Oh my goodness. So it happened the next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his 3 sons fallen on Mount Gilboa, and they cut off his head and stripped off his armor, and sent word throughout the land of the Philistines to proclaim it in the temple of their idols and among the people. Then they put his armor in the temple of the Ashtoreths, and they fastened his body to the wall of Beth Shan. Now when the inhabitants of Jabesh Gilead, or Gilead, and I'm saying that one wrong, heard what the Philistines had done to Saul, all the valiant men arose and traveled all night, and took the body of Saul and the bodies of his sons from the wall of Beth Shan, and they came to Jabesh and burned them there. Then they took their bones and buried them under the tamarisk tree at Jabesh, and fasted 7 days. That was the death of King Saul and his 3 sons and his armor bearer. That was 1 Samuel. Thank you for pushing through with me. I pray that you are blessed with a word from the Lord, and that we're just getting better together. As always, take care of yourself. God bless you. Good night.